Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. And we're gonna talk some more about Kavanaugh. So he had his Fox News interview. I wanna play a little bit more of a tape where he talks about one of his main strategies, his main defense is not just now, but it's been throughout the process. Ever since the first allegations came out, is that his reputation is impeccable and people can attest to the fact that he would never do these sorts of things. He will go into detail on that.
And 65 girls agreed.
Originally, yes. Yes, very quickly agreed, oddly enough, right after the first accusations. Guys, if you don't already have your letter of 65 women you haven't sexually assaulted, you should really get on that just in case.
Who
like a
knew
will.
65? Did you know 65 girls in high school?
I don't know that I've ever really known 65 girls.
Right, that could attest to your character.
Yeah, or would care to. In any event, here's Brett Kavanaugh.
Deborah Ramirez was a freshman at Yale. She says she was at a dorm party and this happened. Quote, Brett was laughing. I can still see his face and his hips coming forward like when you pull up your pants. I'm confident about the pants coming up and I'm confident about Brett being there. She was initially uncertain it was you, they write in this piece, but after 6 days, she's confident enough, she says. Should the American people view her as credible?
I never did any such thing. Never did any such thing. The other people alleged to be there don't recall any such thing. If such a thing had happened, it would have been the talk of campus. The women I knew in college and the men I knew in college says it's inconceivable that I could have done such a thing.
Okay, so he made 3 claims there. All 3 claims are wrong. So first he says the people that were there say that it didn't happen. There are multiple witnesses from that particular event at Yale that say that they either witnessed it or that they were told about it. One man said that he overheard a woman talking about it that night who was incredibly specific about who had been involved in it. So that's not true. It not being the talk of the campus, it was the talk of campus, people were talking about it. And they continue to talk about it up until the beginning of this year when apparently emails were going around of people who have never forgotten about that incident and continue to talk about it. The third being that people who knew him then can attest to that he would never do this sort of thing. Unfortunately, the same day as that interview, James Roche, who is Kavanaugh's Yale roommate, had an interview where he said this. I concluded that although Brett was normally reserved, he was a notably heavy drinker, even by the standards of the time, and that he became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. I did not observe the specific incident in question, but I do remember Brett frequently drinking excessively and becoming incoherently drunk. So he says in another part of the interview, there are beers and we drink, but never to excess, nothing crazy ever happened. Well, the guy that lived with him said, no, he becomes aggressive and belligerent and incoherently drunk.
Yeah,
that's your character witness right there, and so that's 3 points.
And that's his roommate. I mean, that's not just a kid, that was in his Spanish class at Yale. That's his roommate.
Would have seen him stumble into the room and things like that. Like I had a roommate freshman year. I think we called him Boozy Ben. I probably shouldn't have said his real name. Anyway, I had a lot of roommates through the course of college.
His last name.
No, I didn't.
I had a roommate named Mark Easley. We called him Mark.
Really clever. And he would get drunk constantly. Like I have other friends that I'm still friends with, that I could tell you things about how drunk they used to get. And when you live with these people and you spend time with them, you do get to understand how they are when they're partying. And so we have more that we're gonna get to, but my overall thing is, I think that we all, as not just in what we heard from the witnesses in terms of what he was like, but his yearbook page, the Mark Judge's book, like it paints a very persistent, from their own words, history of what they were like. And I think that we all knew people like that in college or in prep school or whatever. I didn't go to Georgetown Prep or anything like that, but I know an entitled elitist a-hole when I see one. People who wanted to go crazy, knew that there would be no consequences for what they did, and then they want to put on a tie and suddenly become quite reputable, and I would never have done anything like that. I was focused on academics and athletics and being friends with girls and things like that. Well, you're bragging in your yearbook page about your keg club, and we've got more that we're gonna get to.
Have you done the Renata
Yeah, we can actually, why don't we bring that up? So we'll push back Mark Judge talking about Bart O. Kavanaugh throwing up in a car. So Renat Schroeder, a bunch of the guys in the yearbook had references to the Renat Alumni Club, which she found out about. Now understand that she had been one of the women who wrote the letter saying that they defended him. Well, when she signed the September 14th letter, she wasn't aware of the Renat alumnus yearbook references on the pages of Judge Kavanaugh and his football teammates. She says, I learned about these yearbook pages only a few days ago. I don't know what Renat alumnus actually means. I can't begin to comprehend what goes through the minds of 17-year-old boys who write such things, but the insinuation is horrible, hurtful, and simply untrue. I pray their daughters are never treated this way. So she seems to think that it is a reference to these guys having hooked up with her and bragging about it publicly. Turns out it's not that. A member of Kavanaugh's growing legal team told The Times that the inside joke was simply a reference to a single high school event that the two attended together, during which they shared a brief kiss goodnight. Yes, that's what he was referencing in his yearbook, and all of them did. Right. They all had a peck on the cheek, and they were simply giving a tip of the hat to each other in the yearbook.
It wasn't just Kavanaugh who had Renata alumni.
Yeah, it was. Was it 12 or 14?
I think it was 12. I remember 12. It may have been 14, but I was drunk. But no, that implies that this was a talked about thing by people who were there, doing this kind of, by people that were like him. And it speaks to his character. And people say, well, it was high school. People then say, well, it was college. That he's going for the Supreme Court, right? He's not going for a job working even at an accounting firm or running for alderman, right? He's going for the Supreme Court. Yeah. That stuff does matter.
And that speech in 2015, he was still talking like, we used to say what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep. Oh God, I better strip that out of the transcript I give to the Senate. I don't want them to actually know about that. But he was clearly looking back on that as a formative, awesome time in his life. Perhaps we too can look back on it and assume that it still has something to say about the type of person that he is. There's one more video I want to show. This is one of the most interesting defenses that he puts forward. Now, this is in reference to a question about the Deborah Ramirez allegation. Oh no, I think this one is actually, so Michael Avenatti is coming forward and saying that there's these claims that there had been these trains on girls that were being plied with alcohol into incoherence, and the possibility that he might have been involved in one of those, and here is his response.
That's totally false and outrageous. Never done any such thing, known about any such thing. When I was in high school, and I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, a Jesuit high school, where I was focused on academics and athletics, going to church every Sunday at Little Flower, working on my service projects, and friendship with my fellow classmates, and friendship with girls from the local all-girls Catholic schools. And yes, there were parties, and the drinking age was 18, and yes, the seniors were legal and had beer there. And yes, people might have had too many beers on occasion, and people generally in high school, I think all of us have probably done things we look back on in high school and regret or cringe a bit, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an allegation of sexual assault. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. I did not have sexual intercourse or anything close to sexual intercourse in high school or for many years thereafter.
Some follow-up questions where they go into, man, this guy did not get laid forever, basically. Right. And so look, it's not as cut and dried as some people were making out to be yesterday, where did you sexually assault this person? I couldn't have, I'm a virgin. But it's also not as uncut and dried as the people that point that out on Mediaite and things like that, saying people are claiming that's his defense. It's not his only defense, but he does present it as a defense. Right. That these claims about his sexual assaults can't be true because he wasn't actually getting it on for a while. He could have done everything except for perhaps the gang rapes. He could have put his penis in someone's face. He could have tried to rape them during a party in high school and still have been a virgin. After all, it was not a successful sexual assault. But
also, it's almost more incriminating, right? Somebody who's so desperate or so, who hasn't been, sophisticated in that realm of life. Would be more inclined to be the person who does something like he's alleged to have done. I mean, there's that argument as well.
Perhaps, yes. I would say that the most true thing about this is, I don't care when you say you lost your virginity. The entire thing that we're talking about is a claim that you are a persistent liar, that you lie about when you get access to certain documents. You lied about talking with George W. Bush and his team about enhanced interrogation, up to and including lying about your sexual assault. So at that point, I don't care if you say that you got laid at 2 or 12 or 35. What's the difference? That has nothing to do with anything.
Well, and the other thing here is none of this is under oath. under oath, he's already lied about those documents.
Yes.
So that is the most incriminating. Before we ever knew the name Christine Blasey Ford, he was a guy who, before a Senate committee, lied about the documents.
Yeah, so look, overall, I want you to understand all of these different aspects of the story because it's important and it is complicated. There's so many different aspects to it. The most important takeaway from all of this, though, is that his core defense that I have an impeachable reputation, something that Donald Trump continues to repeat until today, becomes less true and indeed more laughable with every new detail. Both from what others have said about him, what he has said about himself throughout his life. He does not have an impeachable reputation. He has a reputation, that's for sure, but it's not one that I think necessarily should help him during this process. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.